Hey guys, hope you're having a good summer. Just wanted to do some summer subnetting fun here for you. Just want to do a quick review if you're a little fuzzy with the subnetting, because in the next networking class, it's day 1 I think, Nick gets back into subnetting, and he does it just slightly different than I taught, although it kind of all boils down to the same thing: figuring out your power number, figuring out how many ones and zeros, and performing your binary calculations. So what's a little bit different about his method is he uses this formula up here. Whoop. He uses this formula. Come on. Let's try this again here. He uses this formula right here. 2 to the power of n minus 2 is greater than or equal to the number of hosts that you need. So for example, if we're trying to subnet for 50 hosts, what we'd want to do is figure out 2 to what power number minus the 2 is greater than or equal to our required number of hosts of 50. And this is exactly what we've done before. We've looked at our chart and we've had to subtract 2 off of those numbers. If you remember, I'd ask you, if we needed 15 hosts, what power number would you choose? And you would say, well, I have to bump up to 2 to the 5th, because 2 to the 4th is not enough, because it end up being short. If I use 2 to the 4th, I would end up having a range that would be between 0 through 15, but I can't use the 0 because it's the network, and I can't use the 15 because it's the broadcast, so I only actually have 1 through 14, which give me 14 possible hosts, and my requirement was 15. So that's why in his formula he has the subtract 2 off of it. So it's 2 to the power, subtract your 2 off of it, because you can't use your network and you can't use your broadcast. That number has to be greater than or equal to the number of hosts. So if I go back to my number of 50 here, 2 to what power for 50? I could choose 2 to the 6th. 2 to the 5th is not enough. 2 to the 5th only gives me 32. So if I choose 2 to the 6th, 2 to the 6th is 64. If I subtract the 2 off of it, that leaves me with 62. And 62 is greater than or equal to my requirement of 50. So that means I can start off with 2 to the 6th for 50. Okay? So if I were to do subnetting with 2 to the 6th, let's see if I can erase all this here. If I were to do subnetting with 2 to the 6th, remember that 6, since we're working with hosts, tells me that I have 6 zeros right hand side of the line. Remember, your power number when you're working with hosts tells you how many zeros you have right hand side of the line. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, draw my line, 7, 8. 8 total bits for that octet. And then I would have another octet here of 8 bits, another octet there of 8 bits, and another octet there of 8 bits. Remember, I always have to have 4 total octets. In this particular example, I'm just working with the last octet, since my host requirement is only 50. But then what I do is underneath the line I make everything zeros, and that gives me a starting point of 0 for my first range. And then I make the right hand side 1s, and that gives me my broadcast. So when the right hand side of your line is all zeros, that's always your network ID. And when the right hand side of your line is 1s, which I'm about to draw in here, that tells me that that is my broadcast. So now if I figure out what that is, I have the 32, the 16, the 8, the 4, the 2, and the 1, which is 63. So 0 through 63 would be my range if I needed 50 hosts. Now my subnet mask, how many ones do I have? Well, I have 8 ones in this octet, another 8 ones in that octet, that's 16, another there, that's 24, and here's my 25th and my 26th one. So I have a slash 26. Again, sorry for being messy here with the handwriting. It's hard to write on the computer screen here, but hopefully you get an idea. So let me just try to erase this here real quick. And we'll do another example. Again, next method is just a little bit different. Don't let it confuse you. It's basically the same thing. We just need to figure out what our binary is and what our power numbers are. So let's try to take a bigger example, maybe where we're using that third octet instead of just that last or fourth octet. Okay, so let's pretend that we have a scenario where we're given the 165, 234, 0.0 with a slash 22 to work with. And we have host requirements of 700, 100, and we'll do 25. Again, you always start off with your highest host requirement, and now we need to figure out the power for 200. So if we use our formula, 2 to what power minus 2 is going to be greater than or equal to our number of hosts, which is 700. So 2 to what power minus 2 is going to be greater than or equal to 700. If you remember the way we did it before, my chart only goes 2 to the 7th, which is 128. So I can extend my chart, and I can go 2 to the 8th would be 256. 2 to the 9th would be 512, and 2 to the 10th would be 1024. So that means I can use 2 to the 10th, because 1024 minus 2, which is 1022, is greater than or equal to my host requirement of 700. So I'm going to use 2 to the 10th. So that 10 tells me I have 10 zeros right hand side. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, dot, 9, 10. Draw this dot in here a little better, or maybe not. And then left hand side of the line is always ones. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 to finish off that octet. And again, I have another octet of 8 ones, and then I'd have another octet of 8 ones. Okay, so now what I want to do is I want to figure out what my first range is. And what I do is underneath my line here is I make the whole entire thing underneath it all zeros. So that gives me a range of 0.0. I shouldn't say range, but a starting point of 0.0. So my first network ID would be 165.234. 0.0. And then to figure out what my broadcast is, I make my right hand side ones, and I figure out what that is in binary, or decimal, excuse me. So if I put that right hand side in there, now I have 3, because I have a 2 and a 1, dot 255. So my first entire range is right here. 165, 234, 0.0 through 165, 234, 3.255. Now my subnet mask for this is how many ones I have if I'm doing it in slash notation. So how many total ones I have is here's 8 in this first octet, another 8 in the second octet, that's 16. Now here's my 17th, 18th, 19th, 20th, 21st, and 22nd one. So I have a slash 22 for my subnet mask. That's the same as a 255, 255, and then this number here is everything but the 2 and the 1, so it's 252.0. So slash 22 is the same as 255, 255, 252.0. Now my next range, where is that going to start off? I can't go to 3.256. I can't have anything higher than 255. So my next range is going to start off at 4.0. Okay? So my next highest host requirement is for 100. So 2 to what power minus 2 is going to be greater than or equal to my host requirement of 100. For that I could choose 2 to the 7th. 2 to the 7th is 128, minus the 2 is 126. That is greater than or equal to my host requirement of 100. So I would do 2 to the 7th. I'd put my 7 zeros right hand side. Let me erase a couple things here, get some room. Okay, so we have 2 to the 7th for my 100 host requirement. So 2 to the 7th is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, dot. Actually, I don't need a dot yet. Draw my line. 8, dot. I need the dot there because I have 8 bits in this octet. And I will finish off the third octet with the ones. Remember, left-hand side's always ones. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay? And 4.0 is my new starting point. So what I like to do is I like to draw out what 4.0 looks like. So 4.0 would be so this number here now is 4.0. That is my network ID for my next range. Then what do? I make my right hand side ones to get my broadcast. Now I ask myself, what's this number? Well, here's 4 dot, right here is 127. So my second range for what the 100 host requirement is 4.0 through 4.127. Subnet mask is I have 24 ones to the left, and then here, right here is my 25th one. Okay, so if I want to add them all up, I'd have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I would have another octet of 8. That'd be 17. I have another octet of 8, which would be 25. That's how I get my slash 25. I'm kind of running out of room here to draw everything, but hopefully you get the idea. If I were to draw out all octets, I would have 8 ones in that octet, 8 ones in that octet, that's 16. Here comes another 8. There's 24. And there's my last one of 25, slash 25. Okay, now look where I left off. My last broadcast is 4.127. So that means my next range is going to start at 4.128. Host requirement of 25. 2 to what power minus 2 is greater than or equal to my host requirement. 2 to the 5th. 2 to the 5th is 32. 2 to the 5th is 32. Minus the 2 is 30. That is greater than or equal to my host requirement of 25. So I would have 5 zeros right hand side of the line. 5 zeros right hand side of the line. Let's erase some things here. Give us some room. Finish this one off. Hopefully this is a decent example of our subnetting. Again, a little bit what you have to expect going into the next class, but you got to be able to subnet. You got to be able to figure out what your network IDs are, what your host requirements are, subnet masks, all that stuff. If you can't, the networking classes are just going to continue to get harder and harder for you. Alright, so we said 2 to the 5th for my 25. So 2 to the 5th, 5 zeros right hand side. Power number tells me how many zeros I have right hand side when I'm working with number of hosts. 1, 2, 3. Okay? Because I have 8 total bits there. So 4.127 is where I left off. So 4.128 is my new network ID. So what I like to do is draw out what that 4.128 looks like. And a 4.128 would be this. I'm going to run out of room. So there is 4. Whoop. Come on. So there's 4 dot. Here comes my 128. Okay, so there's my 4.128. Then I make my right hand side ones. And now I have 4 dot whatever this number is here. So I have the 128. I don't have the 64. I don't have the 32. I have the 16, the 8, the 4, the 2, and the 1. That's 128 plus 31 is 159. So through 4.159. Subnet mask is right here is my 25th, 26th, 27th one. I have a slash 27. We're not doing any special methods or decimal tricks or anything. We're basically doing the binary. Now I'm not quite sure how Nick does the calculations like I do, where I put my zeros on the right hand side, draw my line, and do ones on the left hand side, but I'm pretty sure it's the same. What typically confuses students is using this new formula, where what we did was we just kind of looked at our chart and we figured it out from there. So hopefully that gives you a good review of the subnetting. If you have questions, get stuck, get lost, let me know. I'll see you guys in a few weeks.